represses it. I think if you want to work in the area you want to work in, with the topics you want to work with, the art of diversing, creating new perspectives on reality is part of your job. The bad news in this documentary is everywhere in the world it's the opposite way. Everything is constructed around reducing diversity. Just a few sentences from this English professor.
We do have this extraordinary power. I mean the power of imagination. Every feature of human culture is the consequence of this capacity. A capacity that's produced the most extraordinary diversity of human culture, of enterprise, of innovation, 6,000 languages currently spoken on Earth. And we are, therefore, the species that did produce Hamlet, and the work of Mozart, and the Industrial Revolution, and hip-hop, and jazz, and quantum mechanics, and the theory of relativity, and the jet engine, and all the things that characterize the extraordinary ascent of human culture. But I believe that we systematically destroy this capacity in our children and in ourselves. I pick my words carefully. I don't say deliberately. I don't think it's deliberate, but it happens to be systematic. We do it routinely, unthinkingly, and that's the worst of it. Because we take for granted certain ideas about education, about children, about what it is to be educated, about social need and social utility, about economic purpose. We take these ideas for granted, and they turn out not to be true.
Zu zeigen, was sie können und worauf es ankommt.
There was a great study done recently of divergent thinking. Divergent thinking isn't the same thing as creativity, but it's an essential capacity for creativity. It's the ability to see lots of possible answers to a question, lots of possible ways of interpreting a question, to think not just in linear or convergent ways. Now they tested this, and they gave them to 1,500 people, and on the protocol of the test, if you scored above a certain level, you'd be considered to be a genius at divergent thinking. What percentage of the people tested, of the 1,500, scored at genius level for divergent thinking? It was a longitudinal study, so they retested the same children 5 years later, 8 to 10. They retested them again 5 years later, ages 13 to 15. They tested 200,000 adults, 25 years and older, just once as a control. This tells an interesting story. It shows two things. One is we all have this capacity, and two, it mostly deteriorates. Now, a lot of things have happened to these kids since they've grown up. But one of the most important things that happened, and I'm convinced, is that by now they've become educated. You know, they've spent 10 years at school being told there's one answer, it's at the back. Now, this isn't because teachers want it this way, it's just because it happens that way. Because it's in the gene pool of education.
Wenn das jetzt so ist, dann müssen wir komplett anders denken. Dann kann man nicht mehr in die...
This is about creating urgency. For me, it's a message. And I think I bring it to this group because this is the reality you have to deal with. If you want to create space for imagineering or diverging thinking, then you have to know you're in a world that's trained to do the other way. It's a very interesting documentary on schooling education and how we move forward with it and how it doesn't adapt to what children really need. It's about how we prognose the outcome and how we are results driven and transform children in a sort of cookie factory product.
What's the name of the document?
Alphabet, but I can send it you. I have it. I have the illegal copy, but it's in Dutch, so you will have to help each other. There's a lot of China in it, also. There's a lot of China, the Olympics for mathematics, and how children are in fact overstressed and burned out at 12. So there's a lot of. But also the Western countries, we do exactly the same, but in a different form. It's less standardized. But I recommend it. So you recognize it as a reality. This image. So now you have this assignment in Hackathon. Take that away. Well, and of course, Hackathon also takes place in a world that is trained to have a sort of one solution outcome. It's already a sort of transformed, I think, in plans of how to approach this. So it's already solution driven. And it will meet skepticism. Like we practiced this morning with when you bring in a solution, hey, I have a solution, we didn't ask for it. Your surprise party thing will also happen here. You recognize it? So what I would like you to do is we repeat the exercise from this morning. There was a sort of opening for the hackathon. You had a sort of intake, yeah? You had conversations.
We had a
briefing. So I would like you to rewind this film and in observations think of what did they say, what did I do? And is there already a pattern? Because in change we say if there is a pattern you have to deal with, it always happens in the here and now, not in the there and then. So change is always in the moment. So the moment you have a briefing, the dysfunctional pattern will be visible immediately. So my first is, can you be aware of what happens between you and the others in the briefing that is already a functional or dysfunctional pattern? back to the observations, finding the pattern, and then ask yourself, is it knowledge-based, driven, is it relation-driven, or is it context-driven? That's the first. And then we work on intervention strategy. How can you move forward? Because you're already part of the problem then. You're part of the dysfunctional interaction, part of the dysfunctional setting already. So how can you move forward in it? That's what we move on. So first, you have 4 different focus groups, I think, and they're here in the room. Who's what? 5, 6, 5, 6, 4. But in this room, I think there are 4, right? Margot said so, but I believe her.
Yeah, executives have the other 2. Yeah. So we are 4 group.
Okay, so who is in group 1 and what topic does group 1 have?
1 is not here, but we have 2.
Yeah?
And we are about how to make Breda the international hub.
Okay, great. So, try to rewind the briefing and try to think in the observations what did happen in the interaction and do we see a pattern? And how is this pattern functional or dysfunctional? That's exercise 1, yeah? When we finish that, we move forward to the next one. Is this structured enough?
Yeah.
Yeah? I learn. Okay, group 2? 3, sorry.
4.
Who's 3, 4?
We are 3. 3.
And what's the...
We are 3. Yeah, that's just saying like who's the group.
Okay, but what topic?
To make Breda a green city.
Oh, very green. Okay. Green. 4? Who's 4?
There's
No one? 5?
5.
No, we are 5.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's the topic?
How to make people more open-minded.
That's you.
Yes.
With you. And you were green?
With me.
With you. Oh, you are green.
Hopefully.
You 3 of you are green.
Yeah.
And 2 is, okay. Open-minded, and then we have 6.
The last one is how do we create a real connection between people from Breda, and it's connected to 5.
Yeah.
We're in the same subgroup.
So there
It's
are,
2 topics in one group.
Yeah.
But you had a briefing together.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
together,
All together
all
with
6
everyone.
together.
Yeah.
Aha.
So it's
But
like
it would be nice to separate, because then we have different observations that you remember, which will help us to lead to what patterns do we see. Because you were in one briefing, at the end we do a collaboration on it, and then we think, what is the main pattern here?
I think we have different observations anyway.
Yeah. So do it in subgroups. Let's say it doesn't have to be very long, 10 minutes.
Okay.
And 10 minutes is based on observations, what took place, what patterns do we see, how are they functional, how are they dysfunctional. Yeah?
Shall we set a timer, or do you want a time? Look at the clock.
You can set a timer. I never used a timer before, but it's a good idea. No, it's a good idea. And
I don't remember.
Starting now.
So what patterns were there?
only one thing that they're doing already now. Oh, they're people don't keep watching. Oh, we can I think that's what
It's just like my first thought, but it's just like yeah, because what do you yes.
yeah, we have solar panels.
Just already they have why we have to do so I think this is a big better.
Do we have to find some balance between the one who presented us the case and us, or the case and the problem?
The pattern is visible in the interaction, so the problem, you can't interact with the problem. Problem is content, and interaction is action, it's behavior.
So if she gave us a presentation
Then
what the problem is,
Yeah, that's the content, but what happens in the interaction? So first you were invited into a group. Who invited you?
we had to choose to talk about ourselves.
How did it work? There was a presentation and you choose. So there is a presentation, someone tells a story, and then what did you do?
We chose the topic that we liked the most. So we
Immediately.
Yes,
well, I chose
we
the
have to.
topic.
No, we have to.
Yes, it was just like 1 minute how we decided.
So we
Okay,
decided as a group.
okay. So focus on that. Focus on that. So there is a presentation. You have to choose. That's clear. That's clear. Did you, question, did you fully understand the presentation?
Well, yeah, yeah.
Because it was about the whole strategy of Breda City and Breda marketing till 2030.
It's like that, huh? It's like a big orchestra. So, and how did you respond to this orchestra?
Nothing really stood out. So I only listened to the words that I found interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I saw the topics and I was like, that's the topic that I find interesting.
Okay, and
And then I
then?
didn't go for that topic until I
That's it. So, what's the pattern?
Be impulsive.
That somebody explains. I listen to what I find interesting,
Yeah.
and I don't listen to something.
No, well, there is, the pattern is, there is a huge problem. People listen to what they think is interesting and pick that part.
200,000 people
What's functional is, the functionality can be about, I make what is big suitable for me, that's functional. The dysfunctional is that you don't really have an idea how this really fits the underlayers, because the presentation is an outcome of a process, and the outcome of a process is full of judgment, and based on this is what we present, is interpretations, observations. So you don't know what they saw, how they think this project can be a solution for what. You don't have an idea. No, so the pattern is you're seduced into a solution-driven environment without knowing the underlying question,
So we don't know
problem.
if making the green city is actually going to help them achieve their goal.
For what problem is this making Breda green, and where is the sense of common urgency? Is it the mayor? Is it a project owner? is it the people of Breda? Who feels the urgency to make Breda green?
Municipality of Breda.
They feel it?
Yes, because it was from them, and it was from their position of strategy of Breda City, and they decided that green will be fit in this strategy.
Then who's they?
Municipality.
Yes.
How big is that?
I wasn't sure how why they were
It was
No,
why did they decide?
I don't know what position she was, and I don't know what people worked on the project, and I don't know how many people, and I don't know if it was only the municipality or any other stakeholders.
You don't know. It's not critical. It's not criticizing. It's critical thinking. Like let's look precise. So how a good plan is presented, how it seduces you to follow what is assumed to be true.
You have to assume it from them.
Yeah.
Is that the pattern?
Hmm?
Is that the pattern?
Well, it's solution driven, and it's a big thing until 2030. And you pick just what you think. So the pattern is. What's the pattern? Okay, you have to think. What's the pattern?
And then she mentioned something about like having
What's the pattern?
Maybe should be
I just think that we can try to do this.
maybe linear thinking.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it's linear.
Yeah, I think it was also
They want to be
friends. International city, but well, but actually, yeah, in terms of linearity, I didn't really feel like it was certain patterns suggested, like these are big linear or singular or singular black terms, because they really got us this very broad topics, and I have absolutely no idea what to expect us to make some little solutions, or to expect us to come up with a whole system, or that's why it's really they gave us this broad topic and they expect us to figure out ourselves, or is it going to give us strange
So, what's the pattern?
I think they just open mind to all solutions what we can find. And these things from us that we have to find solution. For them it's just like a lot of variance of what can people say instead from development of the city.
Which basically is to say something, give us onderzoek.
So they think it's clear.
It was kind of
Sorry,
it was really one change,
Yeah.
said something a little bit,
Yeah.
and then it just jumped to different topics, so it was
Yeah.
say something to us, to let us figure out everything, but it didn't sound elegant, the topic, to let us figure out what we're doing.
Could not be better.
That could be the pattern.
Ah, that could be better.
It's true. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I was not there, so it's for me it's hard to see the pattern.
It's difficult to see the pattern if there wasn't really a conversation. It was more they were telling us what the problem is, and we were listening. And the only thing we had to do is to pick a topic.
This pattern. This is pattern.
That's the thing.
This is pattern.
There was no real
They
conversation.
were telling, there was no conversation, they were telling what is the problem, we had to pick apart. So there is a pattern of those who know and those who follow. And those who pick what the knowers bring in. It's functional if you have a project. The project management is functional.
So you don't think it's dysfunctional because you don't have all the information I went biased information.
You get a mono perspective on the problem. That's dysfunctional. And how mono perspective is the problem in Breda? I think it's multiple perspective problem. So how much of the real problem is excluded by bringing in a solution? And the intervention can be about how can we create space for multiple perspective working on this solution. So it's not about the solution, the implementation of a new solution, but it's about how can we create multiple perspectives. And then you see focus is changing. Okay, so where did the conversations lead to? We had already a conversation. How would you debrief the others on this?
I think we kind of all had the same pattern, which was we were given a presentation, so we were given information on what they had, and then we had to choose a topic from that information, and that's where it actually the pattern ends. So we got the information that they researched, so we don't know what the actual observation of them was. So we only have the biased information that we got from them.
We have the goals already set.
Hmm?
Our goals are already set.
Your goals were set by them.
Yes.
That's interesting. And did you sign in?
No.
Did you work in the group now? Did you sign in on a topic?
Yes.
So you accepted the goals that are not yours?
I know. That's a problem.
Okay.
I'm not convinced of the particular goal.
Interesting. And do they know it?
No.
No. Okay. So that's a different. So so here we have the knowledge carrier brings a topic, and the followers follow, and say, yeah, I want this part, and just follow.
Yeah.
But the underlying, the sense of real urgency, whose problem is this? Yeah, green, was it green here?
Yeah.
So it's a sort of mono perspective on outcome. This is what we want to achieve. In 30 years we will be here. Yeah? So that's it's a mono perspective on outcome. It's linear.
We had a different.
The second one is you agree with this, but you didn't bring in so you kept on being a bystander. And the bystander doesn't interact. Your bystanders are supporting the problem.
Yes.
You keep it alive by being a bystander.
Yes.
And they seduced you to be bystanders because this is how the construct is. The government of Breda asks you, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And it already happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how it works. This is a pattern. Okay, so thank you. This is honesty. Then.
I think when we went back through the presentation, we found a lot of unclarity.
Yeah.
So the word unclear is mostly between every sentence and another. And we felt that this was like a big pattern even within the subject. Like
Okay, but what did you do with it in interaction? With this unclarity?
We didn't interact yet. We
There was a presentation.
It was the presentation, yeah. But she asked us about the first word that comes to mind, and I said diverse, and two residents, like Iris and another girl, they said like diverse. They were shocked by the diversity, and yet they want to be international. And we didn't have, yeah, we didn't get the feeling that they knew what they wanted.
And what did you do with it?
No, this is just like our observation.
No, but you were interacting.
Back then,
Yeah.
there was no really
There was no
interaction.
interaction.
It
Ah.
was like a...
So
More like
it's
a
similar to
presentation.
what she said. You stayed to be bystander. There was an opportunity to intervene, to say, stop, this is not going right.
Yeah, I still, it was too soon because it was
Why?
like...
It's
we were,
it's
we
the
were just
intake.
getting introduced to the topic,
So why is it too soon?
Like, was some sort of authority.
That's judgment. So it's too soon is already excluding the possibility to start really relating.
I think it also relates to that you don't know what's still going to happen. Maybe it will still become clear and you keep thinking that's your own thinking pattern until the end.
Welcome to the world of followers. Sheep. Meh. Yeah, well, you
That'll be my
can.
nickname from now on.
No, I think... it's
No,
like-
but we are trained to be sheep, like this. This is how it works.
But it's
like because we're-
impolite as well if you interfere.
Why? It can be very
You
polite.
wouldn't like it if I interrupt everything and say, well, this isn't going the way it should be going.
Yeah, I would. Why? Because it opens up an opportunity to be curious. What do you really want, and what doesn't happen? What you really need.
I think we
It
also
reminds me of something that you did during your presentation, where you did something unexpected in class, and you asked us to try doing it in with other
Yeah,
people.
nobody did it, by the way.
No, not yet. Then she started in the
We
middle of the
didn't see you on
presentation.
the
She started
31st.
making a phone call when she was presenting,
Uh-huh.
and it spoke about. Can you elaborate on it? Do you?
I had a presentation, and in the middle of the presentation I got a phone call and I picked it up while it was delivered. And I just talked for like 30 seconds, like, hi, how are you? And
Yeah.
what are we gonna do tonight? We're gonna go to IKEA, blah blah blah.
Are
And I
you
hung up
busy?
and I
You're like,
continued
"Not."
my presentation
Yeah.
Like nothing.
But
without
also the theory
laughing,
behind
and
it.
I was trying not to laugh and not to make any eye contact. And I was just continuing my presentation, and afterwards I was asking, like, how did you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to relate to.
I thought you were relating it to social constructionism as well.
Yeah, social norm, breaking a social
Yeah.
norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a presentation.
Yeah.
It's really awkward when you do that.
That was
Okay.
Because we-
So no, but if you really listen, there's a group of people in a room, and you really want to achieve something as a group, and I come and bring my ideas on what I want to achieve as the government of Breda. Do I want you to be polite and listen and follow and not understanding?
Maybe.
I think they did.
I feel like there's some element of the person we don't know at them. Some people would be like, no, I want you to push back. No, I want you to give your opinions if you disagree. But I think there are some people who, in some organizations, they've worked for, we don't know how long, months, years on these goals, and they're not flexible, and they're not willing to change. So we don't know as a class where they're coming from. So maybe we could have asked how flexible they are about those goals.
Great thinking. So, in the beginning of a meeting, you can contract on your role. This is how you stay out of a pattern. Before we have this presentation, we as a group would like to know, do you want us to be sheep? And just follow and not say, yes, great thinking. And put in, but not understand? Or do you want us to be critical thinkers? Is there space for our creativity? Is the solution you thought of the only way, or can it be discussed? What is fixed and what is still open? This is intake conversation talk for a change person like me. I always start to discuss, try to find out what is here I cannot touch anymore. If there is something I cannot touch anymore, it's like sort of fixed. I question I said, well, I don't think I will have to do this job here because it won't be functional. If you're already fixed on certain ideas.
Also, she could have asked in which of these you believe you can sign up for this.
What?
She could have asked us.
Yes, she could have asked us
Yeah.
in which of the goals we do believe, and we could sign up for those goals.
We actually have that as our dysfunctional pattern, the group making process of
Yeah.
life.
Yes.
They could have asked us if we felt related to one goal and then choose from that point. But they just said like you're group 1, you're group 2.
I
and
think
group 3.
it got
It was not
systematic.
like yeah,
It got really systematic. Like
Like it didn't matter.
the
Some people do pick,
the executives can be on the last day, so they need to pick from the first 2
So,
topics and then
yeah.
what's stressed, and then just split, and then each group gets
Okay,
assigned one.
so what is it driven? Is this what you described? Knowledge driven, context driven, or relation driven?
It's really in context.
Why?
I think relation. I thought like we place ourselves in such a position towards them. That's true. So it's the relation between us.
Yeah, in effect, it's the relation.
Oh.
In effect, the pain is in the relation.
Yeah.
Here's the pain for you, for them not.
Yeah.
For them, it's not relate to you. I don't know, you work for me, come on. That's not relating like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel the pain in relation.
Yeah.
Yeah. The context, you described it already. There are groups of people focused on these goals for years. And it's government. And we have idea. And the context is like we can make 30 years. Make tomorrow. Today is hard enough. You know? So there's a context of government.
There's the knowledge as well.
It's also knowledge, but I think it's a lot of context driven. I don't know. Or maybe knowledge driven.
I just didn't feel that it was our position or what we are like as an assignment to do.
Yeah.
Where like our assignment is clear that it's gonna be like we need to present our assignment for the hackathon under these goals. So and then they had like a 114, I think, 15 researches, and they had surveys with citizens and people outside. So for me, I felt that how can I give my opinion if I don't have, like, I've never studied the subject to give an opinion. So how can I know if this goal is right or wrong? Or how can I know if it's...
Great question. So you just have to say yes to what they found out? Huh? Yeah. So you're seduced to be a sheep. And it's knowledge based, that's what you say. But for me, they use the knowledge in a context. It's a context of government. It's how government works. And they use a lot of knowledge and push it like that, and now sheep on. So it's not bad, it's very functional. Why? Otherwise you can't govern. You need it.
But do you think they do that intentional?
No. No. So my advice would be, if you want to break the problem, do two things as a group. To create a functional interaction, you can do two things. First, I would advise you to re-contract, just create a new contract based on the intake. Say, okay, we have a proposal. We don't want to be followers. We want to be critical thinkers that add new perspectives. Can we be those persons, please? Because this is how, I know you had great studies. We don't discuss your ability to produce outcome on studies. But we bring new thinkings. We also do it. If you want us just to follow what you already found out, maybe we're not the right persons. If you want our creativity and input, can we have space for it? That's contracting. And the second, but you don't contract on it, is that you can work on it during the contracting is only work relation based. Because based on these stories, it's temporary truth. You say it's by the knowledge, it's very strong context driven, blah, blah, blah. This one is in effect, the power of what they want to achieve. Internationalization, green, I don't know. But they want, in the community, Breda, a relation-driven value. Practice the relation. So start to bring your personal reflections not on the knowledge or the big context, but how you experience.
Was also something that happened related to the international law.
Yeah.
And it's that the workshop is taught in Dutch.
Yeah.
So if you are international or want to participate, of course.
In Dutch.
Yes.
That's going to be a
International Dutch.
And we asked about the research as well, like if we can have some documents or stuff. But
In Dutch.
it's also in Dutch.
Yeah.
International in Dutch.
Yeah.
And this is so. This is so contact. This is proof of contact.
Maybe also like the time frame. Like even if we don't want to be followers and we want to be critical thinkers and we want to try to reframe this concept, like on a time frame, like we're not able to do so because this is an assignment and now we have 3 days for it, and then from now till December we have also other classes and other stuff to present. But like it's not that we can say, okay, we're not convinced, but then we can do nothing about it.
So
that's our assignment, and it's.
So how do you want? Do you still want it?
Yes, I don't have any choice.
Yeah.
I love to.
Yeah.
Yes, I think since I'm not part of the followers of this initiative.
You're a bystander, so you're a follower.
No.
Yeah.
I will be part of it, but I will give my opinion all the time. To think.
My advice is, if you don't contract this, that it's okay to give opinion, the effect will be zero. Because they have to adapt diversity in thinking to make it possible. It's a choice, it's a judgment. So they have to judge, include you in you being a critical thinker. If you're not included, you can be a critical thinker all the time, but the effect will be zero. So create conditions for being effective. There's something with my vocabulary today. Okay. That's part one. Does it help?
Yes.
So what role did you take during, we already said the sheep, did you take during the intake? And what other repertoire will help you? All kinds of repertoires are possible to build out this relation interaction. Just start to think in, oh, I could do this, and I could do that, and I could do that. Just to give you some concrete repertoire on how to move forward with these people to really build a relation. And it doesn't push away your critical thinker. You quit? No. Huh? No.
Should not be a follower. It's not a follower. Who is a follower? We accepted that. Follower. So who is the follower? You have to pick the opposite.
I don't like when somebody look at my phone, I'm sorry.
I was curious what you were doing. Oh, but it's our class.
I know, and we are doing it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think that's for a month, they need a lot of
Is it realistic?
Barbie can be very functional, by the way.
Because she's following Aladdin everywhere.
Be very blonde, not all blonde, but more like, oh, really? It's a very, the appreciative inquiry is being very
She was following USSR,
Oh.
but Barbie, for example, she was following
Based on?
She just has her life as she can, has not any impact to her. No kind
Our
of
scope of work, like our responsibility now, because we also don't have the time for it. Like, it's just that I can say that, okay, I think we start rethink about your concept. And we do it because the time to do it. It's in December, the hackathon is in December, and based on what I'm saying that your concept is not.
No, but you can contract on it.
I think following is
That's
not
a good point.
following is pretty good.
Contract on it. So don't judge it's doable or not doable. Bring in your not knowing. Yeah, ladies, there's an interesting one. Again, for contracting also, is it's, you seduce to. If you say, can you reframe it? How did you say it? It's not doable because?
Because of the lack of, I'm saying I totally get what you're saying, but still we are under,
We don't have the time.
we don't have the time, and
So-
we can point it out, but still we are not sure if it's really not convincing, or it might be convincing if we look at
No,
the
but-
research and
okay,
that.
so- What you do is you judge. And you say, well, we don't have the time. I would say, don't start here, start here, and say, okay, I have a question because I'm not knowing on how to move forward because we have 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 days, and there is and there is this outcome, and there is this input. For what I see, it's all limited, and I'm not sure how to bring this together and create effective output. So, can we rebargain this in how should I work with this? No, this is the Barbie. I don't know the Barbie intervention. I don't know. It's a great way to start relating, because then they have to relate to your ability, but also your disability. Time is also disability. If you only have 3 days, I don't know. What can I do? What can I not do? Me don't know. And then you can start relating on the conditions for success. How can we make this work for you and for us? And then you start relating on how you can work together on what do you want to achieve and what is doable.
So what would you advise if you try to start that process?
Recontracting, yeah.
And if they're not willing to?
They're not willing to. It's the experiment. It's the experiment. But if they're not willing to recontract, you can ask yourself, what's the value?
Well, we need to have the credits, so we cannot just say like, then we're not the people you were looking for.
It's an assignment and it has.
What?
We get
It's an assignment we get
graded.
graded on.
Yeah.
It makes us.
Tells who?
School tells us that if we get a sufficient for this assignment, we get our credits.
And there's like a matrix.
Okay, so then you have a conversation with the school. We did this, we did that.
We're going to have it anyway because they are looking at us.
No, but I'm opening up to repertoire. Yeah? This is repertoire. It's different, looking different, moving from sheep to lion. Yeah? Or wolf. Or whatever. Hyena. Okay, so does it help, this one, to create new perspectives on what could I do to build it? This one was the Barbie for time frame.
What was the Barbie?
Well, it's about, I don't know.
Appreciative inquiry.
Yeah, the appreciative inquiry is also, oh really? Oh.
This situation was the Barbie. Oh.
Yeah, the situation like,
Like
how
you
can
can
I do
use the
this?
Barbie
I have 3
as like
days,
a-
I don't know, help me.
I think be dumb question.
Yeah, be done. Yeah,
Yeah, this is how you can
well,
use the Barbie.
use your not knowing.
I understand what like Barbie can entail, but you said this is the Barbie. I was just
Ah,
wondering
well.
what this was.
This was the example of,
Okay.
I don't know how to move forward. Okay, now we move to the next exercise, because you can reassign yourself on what do I want to achieve with this hackathon for yourself. Because there is a target on the hackathon which is not your target. Hello, she. But you can create your own idea of what do I want to achieve with this hackathon. What do I want to achieve with it? Besides their goals, what is my learning goal? Based on this reflection we just had. Pick a picture out of all the pictures that tells the story of what you want to learn in this hackathon. We'll do it like this again.
Oh, sorry.
And now you can keep the picture, because you can use it during your hackathon as your icon.
Oh, nice.
What do you want to achieve?
Like
And it is, yes, your personal learning goal in this hackathon for Breda.
Give me an out. What? What become snakes?
There's one of the dead horse. I'm not sure if that's
But
Who can I read? Is there one of you that I can? What?
Is it our own intention?
Yeah. Your own personal. What do you want to learn? What do you want to achieve?
Bye.
What it's your
Yeah, I look like this after the hackathon.
Get your water face.
Yeah,
the frog.
dead frog.
I want to become a frog. Dead frog.
No, but maybe you want to make a dead frog alive. Maybe one of the government people is a dead frog and you want to give him life again and joy and happiness.
Yes, I first.
BDK. I'll put it back.
Okay, and just pick one. You have one? Okay. Now, on the back side, you can. This is the official shell colors. What opportunity do you see for yourself? Because it has to do with this photo and what these 3 days could learn you. Maybe in approaching this kind of interaction patterns on a different way. It might, maybe what you want to learn is not about Breda, but it's about how do I intervene? How do I effectively influence? Same as manipulating, but the intentions are positive. So where do I see? Where do I see my opportunity? Make it concrete, clear. I have an opportunity too. What kind of new interaction would you like to moderate? So what would you like to, how would you like to interact with maybe the group, maybe a secret group, and we put the camera off and we have different interaction. And then the last one we finalize it at the end of the afternoon, so your experimentation. And I will talk about that later, but it would be nice if you fill in those 2 first ones.
On the card?
Yeah, on the card, you keep it as your own.
Was this originally made for shell?
Yeah. I made it for shell, yeah.
Are we continuing to do hackathon? Oh, no. Oh, yeah. We do. In case
So where do you see your opportunity? What happened in the morning?
I just had headache.
Oh, okay.
And then I got sick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when you're sick you have to go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
No,
Okay.
Can I ask something? Where do I see opportunities
For yourself.
for me to reach these?
To work on it. So what could it bring me if I work on this?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it brings you something. Maybe it's about, I don't know. It's your answer. Very hard for me to give your answer. Toot. Ja?
The second question, which new interaction do I want to develop with other person?
Yeah.
It means within the group that I'll be working with? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise you can't interact. So it has to be with others that you meet. But it can be, you can want to achieve an interaction in this group, or with the group at Breda, or maybe with people in Breda, or it's wherever, or with the teachers on this university. Okay, I'm going to show you a picture, and it very much relates to this reality of being non-divergent. It's in Dutch, but I will hope to translate it well. It's a sort of model of change and ideas of change, and to create diversity in thinking. So it's a little lecturing in between to give some structure. Are you doing well?
Yeah, sure.
Or are you tired?
No, it's good.
This is your learning curve. Yeah? It's a great curve. I like it very much. So it's causing change or causing movement. And very often this is just a theory. Doesn't matter where it comes from. Well, Shirin and I worked on it. But what you very often see is the more linear version of change and development. And then you set a target and you have your expertise in your organization and you move forward to it and you organize it and you manage it and you have key performance indicators and result driven the factory. It's very effective. It's very effective. Otherwise, if this would not exist, you can't do it without it. But what we try to open up in thinking is, this is great, but it's not the only one you need. Self-organizing teams is more and more a sort of issue people are working on. So we say there is also a different model possible. And it's not fixed as a goal, like we have the solution, we have to go there and it's already fixed as a goal, but it's more an imagineering, a future, where a lot of possibilities are still open. What if Breda would be an environment where people could blah 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 and also blah blah blah? It's much more open. It's an image on the future. And what we say is you have the same expertise, but you give not this linear approach, but you give conditions. And conditions are like a playing field. Well, whatever. They're like this. You can see it in not on that, but on those. It has been for a long time a sort of. So a condition is about the higher goals, higher ideas. So but it's also about what the underside. So what we don't want to happen. So the don'ts and the do's. Don'ts. And it's about the real conditions like finance and people and those kind of things, budget. You have to stay in budget. But it's also about empowerment, for instance. It should empower. Now if you define those conditions in your framework, you can say, if you stay within, it's free for you to move around. But it should always address those things. It should work on our higher targets, our higher goals, our beautiful city. It should empower people, it should stay in budget, and it should do what we want to do and don't do what we don't want. This is framing. And it opens up the possibility for diversity, because the outcome is not here, but is somewhere in the process. Everywhere in the process, surprises happen. This is a different approach of leadership. Enough modeling, I think. Within this, we work with these cards. I did it a few times, and I think it could be a nice exercise for you to work on an intervention strategy. If I want to move forward what I wrote down on my card, what strategy will I use? Yeah? Are you still on or?
Maybe we need a little bit.
Yeah? Little break?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
What time is it?
It's 3:20.
So how long?
Until 10:30, 3:30?
10 minutes? Okay. For me it's fine. I'm a sheep. I follow.
We're not anymore.
10 minutes. I hope you're not.
What's the LP?
The idea?
LP.
Oh, leading principles. So you should have leading principles like we trust each other, or we respect expertise. So if you have certain expertise, I respect it. But I also respect your role. If you're a manager, I respect that you have to make decisions.
And it is necessary to keep the flow going. It's necessary to keep the flow going.
Well, this is more flow driven. This is more organizational, traditional, blue driven. And 89% or 98% of organizations are organized this way. And what you want to create is more this. But you have to support them in giving other organizational answers. So how do I organize this flow? Well, this can help.
Why are you learning?
I'm tired.
What's happening to everyone? She's falling asleep, the other one is sick.
Do you have a headache?
No, I'm good. She's not a sheep. She's breaking the, what was it? The what kind of reaction does it trigger though? It's not,
But it's
because it's not.
Asleep. A sheep. Asleep.
Normal and sleeping. People are triggered.
Triggered by?
Is by something out of the ordinary that is happening.
Here.
Yeah. It's somebody started to lay down on a couch.
Oh no, for me it's fine.
Well, there are all kinds of reactions. You want to
Yeah.
prevent those reactions, which I always tend to do.
React is fine if it's not judgment.
Give it geen back.
You want to massage?
Geen reaction.
Je bent geen schaap. Als je zo naar me staat, ben je geen schaap.
What else did you learn at the zoo? Tiger.
I learned that
Leo.
What's that living police?
Leo. Giro. Paard.
I feel like we
Now.
should do an energizer.
It's gonna be
Let's do an energizer.
Yeah.
I feel like doing one.
Let's do
Can we do the clapping thing?
okay, one.
You
Okay,
me.
we can do it for four people.
Okay. What is the fourth? We make up a new one.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 1.
Okay.
1,
2, 3,
1, 2,
3, 1.
Okay, we have to go
Yes,
back.
it is.
Oh, what are you doing?
Energizer.
We have to go back. That was the mind fuck. 'Cause now you can prepare on what's coming, and if you go back, you can prepare.
So you want to go 3, 2, 1?
No. But it was like 1, 2, 3, and then you have to go with 1, and then you have to start with 2, and then you have to start with 3.
So you do
it
it
was
with
like
2
the same.
people.
It was not
It's the same.
consistent. Now it's consistent.
No, it's not. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
But now it's
1.
not difficult because it's not
Yeah.
fast enough.
Yeah.
Do it with
Just
2.
goes
Oh.
Now we're just counting.
We can
If you stand like
this.
this, and
Yeah,
this,
that's
we
not.
1, 2, 3,
1,
2, 3, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Now it's slow. Okay. 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3.
Okay, now it's
2,
3. Clap on
1, 2,
3.
1, 2, 3, 3. Go with the clap.
3,
3,
2, 3,
2,
2, 3,
3, 2, 3.
2.
stop. Right. 2, 3, 3.
I feel like an idiot. And that brain was working, and my right brain was not working.
Okay, now we're gonna stop on 2.
Yeah.
Okay, go. 2, 3. Go!
3.
Sneller! Okay, there's another energizer.
We didn't do the third one.
We tried and then we fucked
What
up.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay.
Who knows another one?
Oh yeah.
What? Who knows another energizer? Another energizer.
That's what I did. Oh, I have memory loss.
Do you remember what I did?
We have, I have a bookwork full.
You're too welcome.
Vanessa.
What is this? Paparazzi?
I'm crying.
We're so hysterical.
Oh my god. You can make groups of 3. Make groups of 4.
What energizers did we do?
We had the pushing.
That was on Tuesday.
This is a chair.
Oh, yes.
Chair. This is also a chair. This is also a chair.
Dit is een tafel. Dit is Iris. Dit is
chair.
Manu. Dit is Sophia. Dit is een tafel. Dit is Sophia. Dit is Celia. Dit is Vanessa. Dit is Cynthia. Dit is April. Dit is Margaret. Oh, dit is Dit is Vanessa. Dit is een lichtknopje. Dit is een fles. Dit is een flespoot. Dit is een fles. Dit is een
Oh my god.
Dit is een telefoon. Dat is Vanessa. Dit is een fles. Yes. Dit is Manu. Dit is een
We doen all the energies.
Dit is een pen. Yes. Ja. Nou, ik denk dat het eentje in voor ons is.
Ja, gewoon. We need all the energizers.
Now this group of 2. Okay. And as a group of 2, and you say you hold. And if I say groups of 2,
like the one my son did.
3, 2.5, and we go like 2 and we carry it.
What?
We
have to carry it?
Yeah.
Ah!
2.5.
Okay.
Oh my god, I love that.
Okay. But also there's
easier.
like your house and your wall, I think.
Alright.
And then we were all like this, and they said all the wolves change houses, and all of you, all the houses search for new wolves. I like that.
Okay, guys, listen. This one is fun.
Yes.
Can we go live together?
What?
Yeah.
You want to quit?
Let's just
Yeah,
wait
switch it off
and
and then.